Hello, and welcome back to the Stories of Northern Life podcast, brought to you by the Sault Ste. Marie Museum. I'm your host, Nicole, and today I am going to be looking at some of our old members' newsletters. So today in this episode, we're going to be looking back at some of our members' newsletters. And we were going through just some of our old files and we found these old member newsletters. So I decided to just take a look at them. Maybe there's something I could use for the podcast here. And I just thought they were really neat with all of the information that they included, what was going on with the museum. So this is a really great way for us to go back and take a look at what was happening all those years ago here at the museum. And another fun fact that I want to put in here is that this building is going to be 120 years old this year. So the doors of the post office were first opened on March 31st, 1906. So that means that, this building is 120 years old starting next Tuesday. So help us wish a happy birthday to our building. So the newsletter that we're going to be looking at today is from October 1989. And you can see here it is the members newsletter. So if you're watching on video, you can check out what the newsletter sort of looked like here. So it says, members newsletter, October 1989, Sault Ste. Marie Museum. And we still had our same phone number, 705-759-7278. We were still 690 Queen Street East. Though another fun fact, if you did listen to our episode when we were talking about the Dominion building, when the museum first opened, our address was actually the door right here to the right of me, so on East Street. And so we actually had our address on East Street. So that is in our episode on the Dominion building if you want to check that out. Now, at the top here, it's talking about staff changes. So what was happening in October 1989, you ask? Well, in late August, Miss Elizabeth Alloway's resignation from the position of executive director was accepted by the management board. Under the board's direction, the curator, Junie McGonigal, and museum staff are ensuring that museum activities continue. And then they talk about gifts for the collection. And so these are artifacts that they received. So it says recent artifacts gifted to the museum include an overstuffed 1940s armchair from Paul Moore, an honest-to-goodness ostrich egg from Susan Foster, a kit of survival rations issued to a RACF pilot, World War II, from Ron Richards, and a collection of commemorative royalty china from Arthur Kerr. And while I can't speak to the others, I do know that survival rations kit is in the military gallery, and we use it for school tours. And then they talk about how they were starting a murder mystery at the museum. And it says, what a mystery. See details on last page. So let's check out what this murder mystery was. So it was called Murder at the Museum. Goblins, monsters, and special effects created by Heather Hanna set the scene for 2 evenings of dinner theater with a murder mystery theme. Michael Hennessy's Family Life Theater Group team up with Heather Hanna and the Holiday Inn for this fundraiser. and it is to be held on October 27th and November 4th. So we will have to check back in the November newsletter to see the success of that event. Then we have board in the bingo business. Beginning September 10th, the Museum Management Board contracted with the Greenbelt Bingo Hall to sponsor a set of 13 bingos as a fundraiser. A schedule of volunteers to work successive bingos is being established. Volunteers handle all the money, sell bingo cards, and do the final tally. Time commitment is 11:30 to 4, Sunday afternoon. Training is provided. Call Udo Rourke at 942-2919 to join the team. And now I'm not sure, I think this was around the time that Udo was heading up the Queenstown Downtown Association. And so you might remember his name when we talked about the Downtown Association. Then we look at the gift shop. The management board has decided to proceed with the idea of a private retailer to operate the gift shop. Negotiations are underway. So now our gift shop, it's still managed by us here at the museum. We do have local consigners, so it'll be interesting to see if we read more into these newsletters. Maybe we'll see if they ever took them up on that offer to have a third party manage the gift shop. And then we have Vital Volunteers. So this seems to be looking at the activities that volunteers did throughout the month, and then sort of a thank you to them. All right, this month, museum volunteers greeted visitors, prepared photographs for exhibition, selected artifacts to include in Wheels, which is an exhibit that we'll talk about in a sec, wove cattail mats for our wigwam in the Skylight Gallery. And you can actually still see those cattail mats if you go up in the wigwam. They still have the mats in there, though they more are on the side of the wigwam. We don't walk on them because we don't want them to get ruined. They also accessioned artifacts and prepared condition reports, entered education collection items on a database, rearranged the Discovery Gallery, audited oral history tape recordings for future transcription, cataloged slides, assisted Dennis Frechette build a display pedestal for the art gallery, installed artifacts in the Skylight Gallery, dismantled Hint of Heritage and installed Wheels. So and there you see the exhibits. Reviewed and categorized accumulated research notes. And congratulations to Daisy Major, who has been selected as the Heart of the Sioux Volunteer. Besides being a museum volunteer since 1985, Daisy can be found at the Algoma Health Unit, the Art Gallery, Visions, and quite probably in other volunteer positions that she hasn't yet revealed to us. And then we move on to look at quilts and needlecraft. In cooperation with the Forestry Capital of Canada, Sault Ste. Marie 1990, a show of heirloom textile works will hang with newly produced quilts and needlework. The new works will be judged. All pieces will incorporate a forestry theme. The logo for the Forestry Capital has been designed by textile artist Jean Burke and is based on a traditional quilting pattern. Those submitting pieces for judging will be encouraged to use this logo in whole or in part in their submission, although this is not mandatory. So it seemed like they were having this really cool quilting and needlework project coming up. And then here they had a call out to the community. It says, wanted for the collection. Floor and table lamps or ceiling lighting fixtures, 1890 to 1950. Carpet or carpets. Remember those pseudo-orientals that were so popular in the 1920s? Some are needed to recreate room interiors of the period, others to use as decorator items to make the space at the foot of the stairwell warm and welcoming. And I believe that we still have some of these carpets, at least in the collection, that we still use for helping to decorate the museum. And here is an exhibit schedule on the main floor. And so this is probably what was set up in the Durham Gallery. So here is Wheels, the exhibit that we mentioned a couple times before. It was to run September 28th to November 10th, 1989. And its description, it says, roll on with the Sault Ste. Marie Museum. Our Algomo Fall Festival exhibit, Wheels, opens September 28th. This is your chance to identify the autos and people that were the focus of Sault Ste. Marie's community day parades as far back as 1927. Compare prices of today's cars with those advertised in the early 1900s and contrast our modern day transportation with rolling stock and wheels from the past. Then we had the Victoria Cross, and it was to run November 1st to November 24th. As Remembrance Day display, the Merrifield family will make available the Victoria Cross awarded to William Merrifield on October 1st, 1918. And also, if you think that the William Merrifield sounds familiar, well, this is the plaque that we sort of talked about in some of our episodes. He has a dedicated plaque on a pedestal right in front of the cenotaph, and just this past year in 2025 it was replaced because it was stolen. I believe it was stolen in 2024, and then so the Legion finally had it replaced. This isn't the first time it's been vandalized or stolen, and so that is the William Merrifield who they were doing an exhibit for in 1989. And then we have another exhibit called Gifts. It was to run November 21st to January 29th. A Yuletide exhibit complete with Christmas tree that will highlight items from our collection that might have been given as gifts at Christmas time. Collector's Luck, February 1st to March 31st. Local collectors will be encouraged to exhibit the fruits of their passion for collecting. Collectibles could run the gamut from a needle to an anchor. Are you a collector willing to participate, or do you have a friend who would be interested? Call curator Janine McGonigal with your suggestions. Then they had Style, and this was to run April 12th to July 15th, and now this would be 1990. Spring always leads to thoughts of fashion, so this exhibit will allow us to display some of the many items of clothing in the collection. In conjunction with the Ontario Historical Association Conference in May, special emphasis will be placed on children's attire. Then Wonder of Wood, July 24th to October 24th, 1990. A traveling exhibit which will complete Sault Ste. Marie's designation as the forestry capital of Canada, 1990. And so there was their exhibit schedule. And then we move on to the last section here where they're talking about exhibit progress. And here we are talking about the Skylight Gallery in particular. At last, we're beginning to see the light surrounding completion of the permanent exhibit, destined for this completely renovated and redesigned area. The exhibit, Superior's Windward Shore, spans the history of Algoma from prehistoric times through the 1950s and is divided into the following themes. People of the Rapids. The first people's lifestyle and activities were intertwined with the demands of their environment. Prehistoric tools, an archaeological dig, and a full-size wigwam reflect a 6,000-year culture. Then, trading through the wilderness. Native peoples and Europeans engage in the fur trade. On display, the last Hudson's Bay Company flag to fly over the Mississauga Post. Riches from the land. Mining and lumbering activities exploit the North's natural resources and open up the territory for settlement. Putting down roots. Early settlement and farming. Discover how a steel town house looked in 1907. City life, 1912. Sault Ste. Marie becomes a city. Stroll down Queen Street and to peer through windows revealing room interiors of the period, a child's room, a parlor, complete with organ, and the sewing room of a seamstress. Harnessing the Rapids. Patterns of industrial development north of Superior. The industrial empire of Francis Clergue and the people he employed. Fast forward. Communication technology links the world. View old favorites from the Algoma Theatre, trace the growth of city services, and recapture the history of the museum building, constructed in 1906 as a post office. Tentative plans include our official opening early in November, coordinated through Communications Canada. And so there is our newsletter from October 1989. So as you can see, if you've been through our Skylight Gallery recently, some of the sort of exhibit stories are similar, but some have changed drastically. But here is what the gallery would have looked like at the very beginning when it first opened in 1989, 1990. So if you want to see what the gallery looks like today, you can always stop by. We are open Tuesdays to Saturdays, 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. And so I hope you enjoyed today's episode where we were taking a look back at our old member newsletters. And as always, thanks for listening. Bye.
Have you been to your local museum lately? Visit us at the Sault Ste. Marie Museum, located in downtown Sault Ste. Marie, the one with the big clock tower on the top. Our hours of operation are 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Tuesday to Saturday. We have 3 floors of exhibits that we constantly work on updating. The whole family is welcome, as we have activity sheets and scavenger hunts with prizes for every kiddo, a discovery gallery full of hands-on learning, and more interactive elements scattered throughout the museum. And don't forget to come say hi and let us know you're a listener of the podcast.